Debate, hold on, we're back. Does God exist is the issue. In the commercial break, we were discussing baboons ripping off. Back to you, sir. This notion of evil, because having done talk radio for many years, it's the standard reset position, why does God allow? Now, it seems to me that if you believe life ends when you're 80, 90 years old or whatever, it's a real issue. There's evil in the world. If you believe it goes on, and God doesn't guarantee a good life, he guarantees a perfect eternity, and that we have to have the freedom to go wrong, and that God is most unhappy when we go wrong, but it has to be allowed. Would they be the arguments, or are they just comfortable positions to explain why there's so many bad things in the world?
Oh, I think it's very important to understand here, Michael, it's the atheist who has the burden of proof with respect to this argument. As you quite rightly, I think, pressed Michael to give us an argument that God does not exist. So if Michael wants to say that God and evil in the world are logically incompatible with each other, he needs to give us an argument to show that that's the case. And so if you can offer these possibilities...
If I may, then what is actually being attacked is the conception of God, right? So we need to have some sort of clear definition of what God is before we can actually talk about anything.
Right.
So if I'm wrong in the assumption that the Christian idea of God, which I assumed you would be defending, is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-good, then why do we see evil in the world, or why do we see the necessity for evil?
Now, asking a question, though, Michael, isn't an argument. If you're going to claim that an all-good, all-knowing, all-powerful God is incompatible with evil, those aren't explicitly contradictory. So if you're going to maintain they're implicitly contradictory, there are some hidden premises here that you're assuming that we need to
isn't there a contradiction then in the... Isn't there a contradiction in that an all-powerful being who would want only the best for the world would allow bad things to happen, right? And you don't see any contradiction
Well,
there.
let me ask you that. The God that you speak of, does he want all good for the world?
I would say that God certainly wants the best for us, but remember what I said in the earlier segment. That doesn't mean happiness in this life. On the Christian view, the good for man is to be found in relation to God. And so God's overall plan for humanity is to bring people freely into a loving relationship with himself now and forever. And it is not at all implausible that only in a world involving enormous amounts of suffering and moral evil that would be accomplished. So we've got to get away from the idea that we are God's pets and his goal is to create a nice little environment for his human pets. At least on Christianity, that's false.
I think there's something important, though, that you're missing, and that is that there seems to be a displacement of suffering in the world, that I think a lot of people who live in Africa who are starving right now as we speak don't have the luxury of sitting in nice leather chairs and talking about these like philosophical issues.
Why are so many of them Christian?
Sorry?
Why are so many of them Christian?
Oh, there's, actually, there are great reasons for people who are destitute to believe in God, right? That I think it gives a lot of comfort to people in that type of area, especially also, like we have to, I think, also acknowledge there is an economic force, that there is a great need or desire from religious people in our societies to convert those people. So, of course, it's going to work on some of them, especially when you're dealing with people who are destitute that don't have very many reasons to object to someone offering them food.
Are we in the dangerous area here of touching on the racist? I mean, could it be that people who are not splashing around in materialism and decadence maybe have a purer, more pristine vision of what really matters in the world?
I'm sorry, I'm not really following why that what the racist comment meant.
Because you're black doesn't mean you're stupid. For me to be crass about it, and you say destitute throughout Africa and Asia. There are people who I mean, they're not all destitute, far from it. They would argue, and I've heard some of those brilliant people in the world, who are African bishops, for example, they would argue this isn't true at all. But we can actually see clearly through the window. You're too busy cleaning away how much money, how many cars, how many homes. What you've said, what you seem to implied at the very least is, well, if you're really poor and really needy, then you'll believe.
In other words, it may be the materialism, consumerism, and wealth of the West that is actually the spiritual impediment to knowing God and his life.
Last minute to you. Go ahead.
Well, let me address that, because I certainly didn't mean it to come off as racist. It's not because they're black, right? It's because they're desperate, right? So if someone has no ability, no education to properly think out these problems, then I think it's unlikely that they'll be able to withstand constantly being told something, right? I think that's true of anyone, even in our society. So I certainly don't think it's racist.
No, I'm sure you're not. But again, there's an assumption here that people who may not have very much money are not educated. And in fact, often you have a higher literacy rate in countries that face relative poverty than here. And what is a challenge? We have in the West so many people, very sadly, sometimes necessary, on antidepressants. We have suicide attempts. Look at the suicide rates in a country like Scandinavia, for example, in that region there. So wealthy, suicide rates so high compared to parts of southern Africa. Are we not confusing things here? Are we not in a rather, forgive me, smug way saying they believe because?
Well, forgive me if it sounds smug, but I do think there is some truth and validity to the fact that there are economic impulses which are used in missionary work, and that's really all I was saying.
Okay.
As for the issue of like depression, especially in our culture, I think that there's a lot to be said about that. But I wouldn't assume by any means that just because we're in relative wealth that we have happy lives. That doesn't follow at all.
I think we're in extraordinary, extreme wealth, actually. But,
Oh, well, certainly. I'd agree with that.
Commercials, nice segue. Wealth commercials, buy things, spend your money, then come straight back to us. We'll see you very soon. Welcome back. Michael Coren Show, halftime. And at halftime, we reintroduce the panel. They're still here. Dr. William Lane Craig, he's a professor of philosophy, Talbot School of Theology, La Mirada, California. I don't even know where that is, actually.
Los Angeles suburbs.
Oh, is it? Oh, didn't know. Michael Payton, cognitive scientist, York University, a Toronto suburb, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah, we do what we can here. You have these debates frequently. You're an apologist. Doesn't mean that you say sorry. You justify, you explain the Christian faith in this case. I mentioned at the top of the show almost 4,000 people, a debate I moderated. Most of them students, and I would say 2/3, if not more, seem to support the Christian speaker. But there is a popular assumption somehow that the clever people are the atheists. Dawkins, Hitchens, Harris. The clever people, they call Christians, was it the dumbs?
Well, they refer to themselves as the brights.
Do they?
So I suppose that suggests the others are dim bulbs.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of ridiculous, though, because just because we call homosexuals gays doesn't mean everyone else is glums, right? I think that there's a reason why we call ourselves brights, or some people call themselves brights. But there are differences in what we call ourselves.
But how do you react to that? I'm Christian. I'm not brilliant, but I'm not a fool. He seems pretty clever.
Yeah.
Some of the most brilliant people I've met have been devout Christian believers. I've met some very clever people who aren't. But can't we just disagree rather than label one group bright? That seems a rather grand self-description.
It's not them being labeled, it's them labeling themselves that way. So I don't really appreciate the name bright. I think there's a point to that being a bit snarky in a way. Yeah. But as for like the intellectualism that happens to be around atheism, I think that comes about because there are fundamentalists who are very intellectual, right? You two don't happen to be those people, but there is that element, and that's a genuine concern of a lot of people.